Here at US LawShield, whether it's a question to our phone line or a question at one of our gun law seminars, a constant theme is interaction between law enforcement and a legally armed citizen. The first step at solving any problem, accurate diagnosis of the problem. That's what this little training video is about. The 3 types of contact you can have with law enforcement, especially if you're armed. They are voluntary contact, involuntary detention, or arrest. With that, let's take a look at all 3 of these types of contact in detail. So, I'm a legal gun owner, and I am carrying. I'm in a public place. As I'm walking along, for some reason, a police officer says he wants to have a chat. I'm a little confused about what my rights and responsibilities are. I'm not even sure what kind of contact this is. I wish I had an independent program attorney to advise me at a moment like this.
It's your lucky day. I'm Richard Hayes, independent program attorney with US LawShield. What you're involved in is what's called a voluntary contact. And it's based on the idea of consent. And a police officer, just like any other regular person, can walk up to you and ask you questions. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to stay and chat or just move on.
So Richard, in a voluntary contact, do I gotta tell him I got a gun?
Well, I am a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. And the law may change depending on what state you're in.
We have 2 types of stops here. You have a consensual encounter or you have a seizure. The consensual encounter is just that. The police consensually approach you and you have a right not to engage in that, and you can keep walking, be respectful, but essentially say, officer, it's all due respect, I've got somewhere to be. If, however, that officer exercises his authority under that badge and uniform to stop you, in other words, to seize you, then you really can't resist that without incurring other legal issues.
So Richard, bottom line on a voluntary contact.
The bottom line is you can either talk or walk during a voluntary encounter.
I'm gonna choose walking. Alrighty, this contact is very confusing. I'm a legal gun owner. I'm carrying legally in public. A police officer stops me, asks for ID, tells me stay right here and don't go near while he checks my ID and background. It sort of feels like an arrest, but I don't think it is. Of all the times I wish I had an independent program lawyer, this would be one of them.
Austin, you're in luck. This type of contact is called an involuntary detention. It seems like an arrest, but it's not an arrest. It's just temporary, and it's based on the legal standard of reasonable suspicion, or reasonable articulable suspicion. That is, could an ordinary person articulate or explain what they believe and why they believe it, and suspect. They have to suspect that you have, are, or about to commit a crime. So that's what you're being held for. It's not an arrest, it's an involuntary detention.
I know I'm not free to go, but what do we do about the gun thing? Do I have to tell him?
While I am an attorney, I'm not your attorney, and each state's law may differ on whether you have to disclose that you have a license and that you're carrying a firearm.
If you are concealed handgun permit carrying, then you must have that permit with you, and you must have some other type of official ID, a state ID, federal ID. And a requirement of Virginia law is that you have to present that permit and an accompanying ID to law enforcement upon demand.
I don't need a lawyer to tell me this police contact is called an arrest. Of all the parts of my day, I truly wish I had an independent program attorney. Right now is it.
Well, Austin, you're really not free to go. You're under arrest. An arrest is based on probable cause. That's when the police can articulate that you probably committed a crime. You're going to be restrained and you're going to be disarmed.
Okay, Richard, I got that I'm going to be detained part, and I got that I'm disarmed part, but I still got my gun on me. How should I handle it?
If you're being arrested and you're carrying your firearm, move at the officer's speed. You're going to be disarmed. Don't reach for your firearm. And if you don't understand any of their instructions, the only thing that should move is your mouth for clarification.
If I didn't have an independent program attorney right next to me, what would be your advice at this point in the arrest process?
While I am an attorney, I'm not your attorney. Invoke your right to have an attorney advise you prior to questioning, and invoke your right to remain silent. Actually say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent. If you don't invoke your rights, they can use your post-arrest silence against you.
When you're a responsible legal gun owner, carrying legally in public, you have far more concerns than an unarmed person does. Hopefully this video helped you identify the type of police contacts that you might encounter, gave you some ideas on how to manage that contact, and hopefully gave you some tips on how you and that officer can separate safer and more effective.